very important. It leads us to a precipice in the conversation today. And that's this fear by these so-called controllers that one day the program will realize it's being programmed, and then a dangerous situation begins to occur, because the same thing that you're programmed with is the same thing that can give you all of the power and give you limitlessness. Why? Because it must contain that in order to actually be perceivable by you. So what I'm
message here today, which is your work as a creator is first and foremost to understand and maintain your own alignment of energy balance between you and you. And the reason we put it to you in that way is because you are here in this physical body, and you certainly have the free will to project your thoughts in any direction that you choose. But there are thoughts that you choose that align with who you are, and there are thoughts that you choose that do not align with who you are. And when you choose those aligning thoughts, you feel the confirming resonance of your source joining you. And when you choose the thoughts that are not in alignment, you feel the discord. Your emotional guidance system lets you know that. When you are full of you, you feel wonderful. When you choose thoughts such as, I am a good person, I am of value, I am the creator of my own reality, I am worthy, or thoughts such as, I love you, this is a wonderful thing that you are doing, you are magnificent in this way or in this way. Thoughts of appreciation cause you to align with your source every time. There is no vibrational discord within you when you are in the moment of appreciation. But when you are finding fault with yourself or with someone else, when you are blaming or feeling guilty, when you are looking at something and judging it as inappropriate and pushing against that unwanted thing, you set up a vibrational frequency within yourself that simply does not match the vibrational frequency of your source. And when that happens, that vibrational discord is shown to you or indicated to you by your emotion that you would call negative emotion. There is a conscious awareness of vibrational relativity that is necessary before you can be the deliberate creator of your own experience. You must be aware of the vibrational nature that is you in relationship with what you're projecting right here, right now. So whether you are focused in your past, in your present, or in your future, whatever you are giving your attention to is causing you to activate a vibration. And that activated vibration is resonating or not with the active vibration that is really you.
Today's conversation is the difference between reality versus actuality. And reality to me is more of a repeat. As you see, reality contains the word read, which means to repeat. So when you have reality, this is what you think is going on. This is what the one part of us that we have identified three parts: the mind, the body, and the soul. And what happens is that the mind is connected into the reality because it's what information that's been loaded into it and what it believes is going on. And so what really happens here is that in this reality, many people have been talking about, well, maybe Earth is a holographic projection. Maybe it's a computer program. Maybe it's something that someone's developed, some great architect, but it still is rigorous on the constructs of being something that's artificial. That is absolutely false. And I'm going to explain to you why that is false. Earth is an actual place and it is alive and kicking. What literally happens here is that this artificial Tron-based world that people are talking about is the world that they're being transmuted into now. And I'll explain how that happens. It's just like the indigenous says, I don't speak men very well. The indigenous say that there's a chakra that connects us to Earth. And that chakra has a cord to it, like ethereal cord, that's something like our umbilical cord that's cut from our mother. And it allows us to be connected to Earth's communication grid, which is broken, by the way. And then we'll talk about that, of course, much later in different programs. And I've definitely talked about that on the show. But what has happened to the Western state of mind is that this cord is cut. And instead, they're connected by some type of hive mind neural network that connects into an individual and begins to program them. And what that has programmed them to believe is that all of their power has to come from something, one, external, rather than understanding, and also something now inorganic. And we'll talk about this. Because what happens is that when I say I want to communicate with, and I say who I want to communicate with. In this world, this trial-based world, a person goes and picks up the phone and they dial the number and they say, hey Todd, what's going on? How are you today? Oh, I'm doing really good. But in the actual world, when you want to communicate with someone, you link right through their mind. And this is why in this world that we're using now, where people's abilities have been turned off, that sometimes they call someone and the person's like, hey, man, I was just thinking about you, and it's funny that you called. It's because not only can you just send the signal that, hey, I'm thinking about you, but you can also send the whole message. But this is all based on how powered up your system is. So what also has been going on is that I feel that there's been a breach in psychic security. And I want to put this very clear. People need to understand that our minds are very powerful things, and our psyche is a very powerful thing. And generally, it remains protected. But in this time that we're living in which there's been a lot of propaganda, a lot of frequency, a lot of different things used to penetrate into our subconscious, and even by individuals who have used that to sell macaroni and cheese, this is cause where the mind has been intruded upon and left gates open and left doors open into the mind. And what these doors do when someone accesses them is it begins to change how you think, feel, believe, etc. And so what society has been manipulating into is a perpetual cycle of death, where they've been made to think and believe that there's these limitations going on. And what they call this in these higher levels of knowledge in secret societies, they call that squaring the circle. Putting a wall around a spirit-type being that we're calling the humanoid, mind, body, and soul. So what happens when this begins to take place is that there's a limitation perceived by the individual that is here, like the person is in here. And the reason why I said there's been a breach in a person's psyche.
I want to talk to you about. I heard you say the ancestors saying that we need to get free, correct?
That's correct.
Now, this is what I've been looking at, brother. I've been off into a whole lot of, you heard the spiritual world, correct?
For sure. Yes, sir.
I don't want to go too far off in it because by me being a cook, there are certain things I can't talk about now. But I've been off into a lot of things, and what I've been looking at in life, a lot been hidden from us, I've found out. And I think they did it through the DNA. But everybody got their mind, I call it the greenback dollar. But I've been thinking, if we could figure out what been taken from us, we would need the greenback dollar. We can manifest whatever we want in life. And I'm thinking it comes from meditation and all what you talking about. You sound like you got the answer, brother.
Well, you know, it just happens. It just so happens, brother, father, grandfather. I've done the work that's just necessary to get to this stage, only because of really hearing the transmissions of others that I've been inspired by, and my peers, and people all around me. And one thing that I definitely will say is that, see, what the dollar is, I always say before I have this kind of conversation, is an ode to what a piece of paper can do. And many think that just the concept behind the dollar bill is what allows it to have the power that it has. But actually, the dollar bill is a talisman. The dollar bill was configured through a hermetic science, which is different than alchemical science. But that's, there's a couple radio shows, I think Radio 1 can see the difference between the hermetic traditions and the alchemical traditions. But this is the configuration of a two-dimensional imprint that actually, with the magnetic strip, attracts a person to their own demise. And so one is basically to attempt to balance out those kind of currents, because it's not that you're going to be able to just drop it right away. But you're right, that alchemical configuration on that dollar, which is deep levels of symbolism when it comes to frequencies, that's what you see in the webs and the nests. Those are cymatics. And then you see the signature, the two-dimensional imprint of the dead president, which is obviously necromancy, right? You're showing images of someone dead, and then you have their signature there. So this art or craft is ancient. And what it causes is it causes a resonation to the ideas of the core of where those bones reside. So wherever those bones of those presidents reside, they generally are on a field that is configured geomantically to emit this level of enslavery and what's going on with why we have to utilize that particular greenback in order to become a form or a barter system for our energy. So you're definitely right that once one's turned on to their own energetic field, what happens on the money level, again, because the world is using it, is that the money does actually come abundantly as long as one plants it properly. And then eventually you realize, because if you're trafficking in this kind of knowledge, you realize sovereignty is actually obtained first spiritually by disavowing. That just means that you go against the system that is emulating some kind of external entity as being the end-all, finish-off for people. And then you work to control real power, because remember, these in the dominion realm, they're working with electricity. They're working with water. That's their powers. It's not like our ancestors in the level of their power. But through that power still, your water, your electricity, there is a heavy level of control. So when one is able to produce their own water, whether they have a well, their own electricity, whether they're using solar power, then they actually symbolically put their spirit in the next stage of its own sovereign freedom. And so these are things, that's why I say as above, so below. If you find that you cannot work at something on a specific level, there's always a spatial. There's always a place that you can undo or work in a way where you can free yourself from certain things that will otherwise be impossible in certain places. So like moving a stone, like in physical reality, that stone ain't going nowhere. It's too heavy. But you move in the next spatial, you can move it onto the top of the mountain and then come back in the physical plane and find it there. So that's how we move large objects. And that could be an entity, that could be over profane thought, like money, that could be anything. We can easily go, when we understand this knowledge, I remember knowing is half the battle. So just simply the mind hearing this today already is at work. That's how fast it moves. Mm-hmm. And because the mind, body, and soul moves in conjunction, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, that's only the mind, that's only knowledge. No, 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 you don't know what's going on then. The mind and the body and the soul move as one. So even when the mind hears something, it passes it on to the soul, or the spirit, excuse me. And then the spirit, being as a flaming fire, will try to whip up the beast to do what needs to be done in order for the next level to come along, because it has heard something greater. And that's why they say even the jinn can be convinced. If you read the Quran to them, the Quran was the book or the Kabbalah which read out the secrets of a person's body, numerically equivalent to the number 19. Not the book that was brought into publication after the Abrahamic traditions attempted to usurp the entire throne of the kingdom of the world, also known as Brahm, and his wife Saraswati, which comes out as Abraham and Sarah. So what we realize again is that something new is on the wind, and it cannot be stopped. And those who move with that force cannot be thwarted. And the only thing it requires is integrity and truth. That's it. Like as far as your flaws and all of that kind of stuff, that's petty. Like if we cannot agree in where we are now, then we want to change the past. So you have to just get comfortable with yourself and where you are. Like, hey, what I did got me to where I'm at right now, but I can change. I'm not going to be judged. See, the judges are the Hebdomad. Those are the 7 gods that reside around the realms and circumference, like the old Sumerian pantheism of the 7 realms, 7 days of the week. When you're not judged, meaning you come out of that whole idea that you have to harmonize with some kind of state of consciousness or some kind of punishment system, all of those kind of things, then one passes by them because they cannot see them. This is like what they show you in the Kemetan. You see the big deities, and none can cross their gates without being basically shaken down for their memories. When one is not judging, they can't even be seen, so they just glide right by. And this again is way a different level of knowledge for the traveler, but that's what we're doing, is we're traveling now beyond the scope of this realm. And instead of going there looking for knowledge like we're scientists or on any of these kind of systems and crafts that they've been using that are defunct, what has been abhorred in heaven and brought down by those who were brought low, we're going in there and we're just staying open and neutral. And we have our birthright, which is our mother. And there was no being in this vicinity that didn't know about our mother and doesn't have kids by our mother. And that's why, you know, when they try to demonize it, they go, oh, they're harlot. But see, every Mary in the book of the Bible is all the same being. And that lets you know the different aspects of how they're referring to the divine feminine. Oh, she's a harlot. And no, she was the one to Jesus. Jesus used to kiss her in the mouth. And you just have to keep reading the books until you realize, oh, man, and then, of course, the experience. So this is a great time for us. And we will not allow that time to be spoiled by our programming. Because that's why one has to always, you know, stay on the throne, move back in the mind. The moment the mind tries to go into, because it's going to do that for a while, when it starts going into, but we're still going to, whoa. We are not going to do anything. You may go and do it. That's how you put the temples in check. See, Cain and Abel are in the temple. This is the good angel and the bad angel, right? Cain was the bad one. Abel was the good one, according to the documents. So, but they sit in the temple, meaning they sit in the left or the right side of the brain. It's all metaphors. And then they're always like basically talking about doing opposite to what the other one is doing. And this keeps us in this conflict. But remember, the conflict is generating power for the cosmos, and the cosmos is riding across like it's a chariot. You see, so we can't look for sympathy from the cosmos. And this is the deep thing to think about, is that it's all energy. So our conflicts create energy, just as the pistons moving back and forth with an engine create power. So if all is energy, then the whole conflicts of what goes on inside of this crucible is only fueling a much more larger life form that needs to exist in order to become the foundation for something even greater than it. Meanwhile, you're in this. That's always like to just segue out of it and be like, but meanwhile, I'm in this. So just as having this microcosmic universe within myself, that does not mean that when taking domain and sovereignty over myself, that I have to agree to any of this going on with me. And if this is the case in which my name has been written anywhere, because I'm nameless, I'm Amen, I'm only a frequency that never repeats itself twice, I disavow. And that means I'm out of it. So I'm out of the confusion, because that was what was on the Oath of Harmon and all of what they were talking about, and all the let's go do the deed, and the giants came in with the women and all of that. Like, okay, that's great. I've closed the book now. Where are we at? What have we learned? What have we gained? I'm holding count, recompense on myself, not others. I'm not trying to master over others, master myself. I'm not a sorcerer. So in teaching that, then one sees the truth within themselves. And that, to me, that's the greatest arcana right there. That's the formula. So it's so funny, because if we keep trying to find it outside, we'll never find it. It's like something on your hand, but your hand is too close to your face, so you can't see it. And that's how it eludes us. But when we step back for a minute and take just a look at ourselves, we start seeing the incredible existence. And then when you reverse engineer that, any person that ever worked mechanics, you reverse engineer that, you realize the whole thing is sentient. So we're not in a dummy. We just need to wise up. And then once we do that, we change the frequency. So by cosmic laws, which is, I don't want to play with land law, I don't play with Merovingian law, I don't play any of the cosmic law. Now, what has been done must be undone. You must untie this Gordian knot. And then don't give me that it's impossible, because that's what our ancestors do. We do the impossible then. So these are the guys, and these are the women, and these are the beings, and these are the spirits that you call when it's time for the impossible to be done. And it looks like to me, when ignorance, pestilence, injustice, and abuse of our children comes over the land, then I incarnate. Meaning no matter what days I'm in, what stupor I'm in, if I'm running around the club or whatever, I get a page. And then that page say, hey, it's time to wake up, Supreme Being. Because everything that you are is at stake. It's the age-old time again. And we must respond to that call. So this Donald Trump is the final Trump. The final trumpet. It's the time for people to wake up. If so many people can be led to, I mean, that was a joke at first. Now it's not funny. We can see the level of where people are. It's like they're putty in the minds of the media now. Hollywood is the politics. I mean, Reagan started that. Shit, it goes back even further. So we now say, well, what are we going to do? We need our power. And our power doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. If you can't configure your consciousness properly, you can't even hold the power. It just burns up your lines in your skin. It's vivid. It burns all up through the veins and the nadis of the body. The chakra collapses. So that means we got work to do. But guess what? We have the ability. We have the genetics. We have the memories. We have the help. The only thing that we got to do is agree to be available to ourselves. It's time for you now. You need you. So all the extra stuff that we're catering to, all the codependencies, like I said, the people that, are pulling from us and the things we keep engaging with, trying to hold it up, you get the page. And now you know the knowledge is here. So now there's no excuse. See, they say, woe to the ones who know. Not the ones that do not know, because they shall know not. So this just means if you have this knowledge now, where much has been given, much is required. And that just simply means applying it in your everyday life, sharing it with others if that's possible, without destroying relationships. Some people, they'll fight you over this. You tell them the Supreme Being, they'll try to kill you. How does that work? You see what I mean? Think about it. You tell someone they're the Supreme Being and that they're actually the God, they'll try to kill you. That lets you know how far we are. They're like, well, there's no God but Allah. There's no God but Jesus. There's no God but Everyone but them. When they fill in the blank, it's everyone but them. So you see the gig. The gig is simple. So we actually restore the person's power. As I say, remember, we put back on the members, and we're their members. And that's, that's the membership. That's what it is. So, I'm glad that, you got a chance to not only hear the message, but also the message touch you in one way or another. But I will say, it's surely your presence. Like, we're in this presence together. And in that, we're going to be all right. Because the other ones, they may feel the burden of this. Like, oh, but how can I do it from it? No. Slow down. You do what you can do. I'll do what I can do. And we're going to be all right. I can guarantee you that if you can guarantee it to yourself. And that's what this is really about. It's about us linking together. It's not about one person doing all this. It's not about who's the smartest. It's not about any of that anymore. We're realizing where that's all getting us. And where we truly want to be is together. There will never be a greater time than when we all come together and there's no arguments, there's no gossiping, and there's no scarcity, somebody trying to make money off the other person. When all that is removed, like I say, when the illusion is gone, what remains will be the truth. And so all that fakeness, if that's what you are, that will go. And if there's nothing about you that's not illusionary and fake, then you won't be there because you won't remember. But if you get truth and you allow it to fill you completely, when all the smoke clears, you'll be right there and you'll still be sentient and you'll know about everything that happens. And that to me is my personal goal. Not immortality. You're going to live forever. Deal with it. But can you remember forever? Can you move with purpose? They call that a tornado that's guiding itself. You've got that much power, but you know where you're going. You're not just running into folks' house and all of that. And so this is what we earn back. And it's piece by piece, because the more energy and power you get, the more range you have. Now you get more orbit. Mama lets you stay out a little bit later. Daddy gives you the car. So now you have more range. And that's what this is about. Eventually, till you become untethered. That means now we can not have you on the silver line or have you with an umbilical cord so we can reel you back into the reality because you've gone too far and you're lost. You can now get those training wheels off and then go into what they call the unknown because no one wants to know it. And it's not because that they couldn't get that information. It's because who would want to spoil it? Because every time we get something new, it's fascinating. So if we, again, keep trying to predict everything that's going to happen next, where's the joy in that? We have to only be secure with ourselves so that we know whatever happens, I'm going to be straight. You're not supposed to, whatever happens, I already know I'm going to be straight, Charlotte. That's how this really is. If you do your work on yourself, you know whatever happens, you're at least going to be better off than whatever happens to everyone else. But it's not also that loose. You die daily. I change frequencies almost daily now. And there's not a different person per se because the core and the foundation is there, but I've added something myself. I've collapsed another parallel running on the side to eventually bring all my presence here, be here now. So that way your energy is not delegated across all those dream worlds because we need you here now. So it's like, wake up, Alice. You're in Wonderland. You need to bring all your yous back into prime, into this reality so you can activate your power. And then from there, you'll see what it is because now your unique mission, your unique frequency, where you'll be, what you'll do, no one can say. Only they can know that it's going to be great. And that's what we're dealing with. So that's what it is. Like, and man, I won't go ahead and desist for only now, but I will be back around again. And just to let everyone know, they can check us out at secretenergy.com. University kicks off June 21st. This semester 2 is going to be amazing. We got manuals for everything and lots of topics are covered. And then you get the imagery because sometimes for some people, seeing is believing. All this that went across the day was like, well, that was great, but I love science fiction. It's just like it doesn't actually hit them until they get hit with one of them pictures because we're in a seeing and believing world. So when you see this in the diagram, or on something that was pulled from the Royal Society 150 years ago when they didn't have TV, so all they could do was illustrate and write. Then it starts to click for you because you see the images of you on the other parts of the timeline and how you react and how you act and what the symbols really mean and what they do to you and what you've done with the symbols. So that's what it is.
Wow.
I guess we went too far. I can't help but thinking about that song with Layla Hathaway and that other guy. It always was saying, before we go too far. Well, I guess I failed at a lot of things, but I guess I ain't feel like that. I actually went too far. But yeah, it's sticking in my head. I guess we went too far. Well, whatever happened, we manifested it into reality. So I guess this was supposed to happen. And I'm not gonna feel so guilty about all the bad I did because I guess that was supposed to happen. You know, it's all part of our journey in life. So why question it? Just keep on with the keep on. You know, maybe this will make me a better person. Maybe it'll make you a better person, or maybe it'll make you a worse person. However your destiny is supposed to be, I guess that's what it's supposed to be. So I'm not gonna question it or feel so guilty and bad about it. And you know, I'm so stubborn, used to having my way. This one, I give up. I know I can't have this one. So I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna give up this fight because it's a fight getting nowhere. So yeah, I quit. Call me a quitter. Well, you been saying I'm a quitter. I always run. But I finally give you up, Z. I give you up, baby. Yeah, I lied. I did that. And I did that. I'm not blaming you. I did this.